Hubble is turning 25.
It's hard to believe.
It's been a few decades since Nancy Roman worked at NASA, but she still has vivid memories of a time when the Hubble telescope was little more than an idea.
I remember when we were thinking about hoping it would last 15 years, and I'm certainly glad that it's lasted another 10, and still going strong.
Not bad for a telescope that almost didn't get built.
Some of the most influential astronomers thought it was better to spend $300 million by building 20 duplicates of the Palomar 200-inch telescope rather than spending the same amount of money on one very expensive telescope in space.
While some scientists didn't want a space telescope, others couldn't wait to use a large orbiting observatory.
Astronomers have wanted for generations, actually, to get us a telescope above the atmosphere. I like to describe the atmosphere as being something like looking through an old stained glass window. The window has dust on it, so the background is kind of scattered and bright. The glass is colored, so that you only see certain colors through it. You only see certain colors through the atmosphere, and we were anxious to see some of the other colors from the universe.
The very sharp images it would produce would allow you to see things that were much fainter than it ever be possible from the ground.
Eventually, the project known as the Large Space Telescope began in earnest during the 1970s. But how would an observatory out in space be operated?
Man would run right along with the telescope and look through it. We wanted to get rid of the atmosphere, and the man needed the atmosphere. Secondly, the man would wiggle, and I don't care how much he tried to stay still. No man or woman is going to sit for an hour without moving.
Engineers would have to look at other options.
The detectors for photographic film or photographic plates, nowhere as sensitive as what we have today.
The DoD did use photographic film for reconnaissance and dropped the film into the ocean where it could be picked up. That was much too expensive a process for NASA.
Instead, NASA looked at making images digitally on charge-coupled devices, or CCDs. Problem was, CCD technology was in its infancy.
CCDs were becoming of interest to the television industry. The problem was that the early CCDs had no sensitivity in the ultraviolet. And one of the things we wanted to do with the Hubble was to work in the ultraviolet, coating the detectors with coronine, an organic compound, would make them sensitive to the ultraviolet. And so the first use of the CCDs in astronomy was actually the proof of concept for the Hubble.
What was arguably the biggest obstacle standing in the way? Getting the money to pay for it. Hubble supporters won out in the end.
I did a back-of-the-envelope calculation, and my answer was that for the cost of a night at the movies, every American taxpayer would have 15 years of exciting discoveries.
Add another 10 years for good measure, and Hubble has not only eclipsed expectations, but even more discoveries are on the horizon. From the Space Telescope Science Institute in Baltimore, Maryland, I'm Mary Estacion.